Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP. Nick is here in attendance with me once more because today we're going to be going through our Monday Night Raw recap for this past Monday. This is the 21st of July edition, live from Houston, Texas, H-Town. So how about we get into all the action that took place across the course of the show, starting with our opening segment, which would be CM Punk, the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. After winning that gauntlet match the week before, he would come on down to the ring and he would pay respect to Gunter originally, saying how good he is, before saying how much he's looking forward to the match that's going to take place at SummerSlam. He would say that he's only got 2 weeks to prepare for it, but also says that, throughout his whole life, he's been working towards opportunities like this. And he goes on to say that he's not just a challenger, that he's the best in the world. Gunter arrives shortly after that, highlighting several similarities between himself and CM Punk. He'd especially mention his ego. He would especially mention the ego that the two have, and that they're quite similar in respect. But actually, Gunter's is based more on his accolades that obviously he's been holding very proudly over the last couple of years. He says that he's the best in the world because he holds the World Heavyweight Championship, which therefore means that Punk isn't the best in the world because he will never be the World Heavyweight Champion again. He ends the segment basically by warning Punk about what he'll do to him at SummerSlam, and that he's going to end up leaving him staring up at the lights. So pretty standard, face-to-face here. Nothing really groundbreaking from this particular interaction, but just setting the scene for their match at SummerSlam, and just laying out the seeds quick and early here, just to prepare for what's going to take place. The second segment of the night would be our first match of the evening, and that would see a rematch of a few weeks ago. This would be Sheamus one-on-one with Rusev. After their very hard-hitting affair last time, this one promised to be exactly the same, and it was pretty much exactly the same in terms of the hard-hitting offense. This time, Sheamus would be the one victorious over Rusev, getting one back against him. I think Cole said that this was the fourth meeting that they've had in their career one-on-one, and this was actually the first time Sheamus had beaten Rusev as well, which is quite interesting to think about. But yeah, the match was quite fun. It was hard-hitting. It was it was intense for a large part. We saw in the previous match the exposed turnbuckle, but the cover on the top connecting to the ring post. That happened again in this matchup, but instead it was Sheamus capitalizing this time, dropping Rusev on top of it. Rusev was sort of scrambled to the other side of the ring, looking to grab the shillelagh of Sheamus, and as he was trying to use it, he get met by a bro kick. And that would be the 1-2-3. But yeah, fun match, hard hitting, certified banger, as Sheamus would like to say. And whenever these two step into the ring, it's always a blast to see them at it. We then go into our second match of the night, which would be the LWO going up against the New Day as well as the Creed brothers in order to determine the number one contenders for the World Tag Team Championships, currently held by the Judgment Day. That'd be Finn Balor and JD McDonough. So in this matchup, it was quite actually a fun one. There was a whole lot going on. We had so much interference. Just before the match took place, we would have Dragon Lee and El Grande Americano backstage. They would get into a little bit of fisticuffs over the heritage of luchadors and the disrespect that Dragon Lee feels El Grande Americano is basically implying upon the rest of luchadors. But that would sort of transpire into the match as well. We'd have so many things going on in this one. We'd have Dragon Lee at ringside. We'd have Ivy Nile. She get involved at one point as well. El Grande Americano would come out of nowhere and he would drop down Dragon Lee on the apron, seemingly costing the LWO at the time and distracting them and causing the other team to take advantage. But actually it wouldn't go that way, because in the end we would have the LWO secure the victory, Joaquin Wilde pinning Kofi Kingston via a roll-up and becoming the number one contenders. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a surprise, maybe a little bit of a shocker. I suppose the only face team in here, they'll be taking on the heel team that is Judgment Day. I suppose it makes sense in that regard, but LWO never really been given much of a chance to shine in championship opportunities on the main roster. So this is quite fresh, quite different. I'm all right with that, to be fair. It was a fun match. There's a lot going on. It was high flying. It was, very fast paced for the majority. And it was a really good contest. I quite thoroughly enjoyed this one. But yeah, surprising for the LWO to win, but nice to see someone different take to the stage. Our next segment of the night, which would be a promo from the Women's Intercontinental Champion, Becky Lynch. She would go on to say how she shouldn't even be here tonight. In fact, she should be in New York for the premiere of Happy Gilmore 2. She looks back to Evolution and how she had the slickest victory in WWE history. It's not just her saying it. Apparently, people online are also saying that. Um, before going on to say how selfish Lara Valkyria is, the fact that she's looking to win 2 titles, the women's tag team titles, because there's a whole situation with her and Bayley that's about to take place after this for the women's tag team championships. And then also trying to obviously win the women's IC title from Becky Lynch. She then calls Lara Valkyria out, who doesn't hesitate. She comes out pretty much straight away. And Becky continues, talking on the mic. She would refer back to their previous match and the stipulation if Becky had have lost that contest. Whereas if Becky had have lost, then she wouldn't have been able to challenge Lara Valkyria again for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. She then challenges Lyra to accept that stipulation for herself for their upcoming match at SummerSlam. So I don't think Becky really said that it would be so much challenging her for the title. I think Becky maybe left out a couple of things, or she genuinely meant that Lyra just wouldn't be able to challenge for the Women's Intercontinental Championship again, which would be quite the crazy stipulation. But because of how quick Lyra accepted it, I'm sort of thinking maybe it was meant to be, you can't challenge Becky, but I guess it's up in the air when you don't actually say what you need to say. But yeah, Lara would accept it pretty quickly before putting her own demands out there, saying that there should be no countouts and no disqualifications. You has to be a winner, no matter what. Becky would accept it before saying how important the title is and the respect that it warrants. And then she would actually offer a hand to shake for Lyra. Lyra would look at it, be a little bit dubious, and then she would hit Becky with a manhandle slam, fainting her out into that one, before then Bayley comes out ahead of their Women's Tag Team Championship match that's going to follow straight after this segment. So quite a crazy first half of Raw. Nick, we've obviously got CM Punk and Gunther laying the foundations for their match at SummerSlam. Sheamus getting one back on Rusev, another hard-hitting affair. The LWO surprising people maybe getting to that number one contendership opportunity. And then Becky Lynch and Lyra, up in the stakes for their championship match at SummerSlam. What do you think of our opening 4 bits? And what do you make of the start of Monday Night Raw?
Yeah, lots to talk about, and it felt like everyone kind of getting their own here on this opening segment, as you kind of mentioned. Not tearing down the place by any means with this opening promo, but CM Punk clearly is better on the mic of the two. And so maybe that it was a reason for kind of being a little more reserved on this one, or maybe just kind of slow burning this one. Obviously, we don't have that much time until the match, but regardless, this one felt like it did what it needed to do. And obviously, Gunther coming in and poking holes in the Punk's best in the world moniker, which certainly he had some points. So looking forward to that one. And I felt like this one just helped that one kind of inch along, if you will. The rematch with Rusev and Sheamus, of course, was another banger. I would argue maybe this one wasn't quite to the level of the last one, but the margins are very slim. This time, Rusev trying to get that exposed turnbuckle or corner of the ring into his favor yet again, but obviously this time it does backfire. Rusev then going to the shillelagh, and of course that didn't quite work out as well. So now, for at least recent history, this series being tied at 1-1, would like to think there'd be some sort of rubber match here, and I for one think that would go great on a SummerSlam card. Give them some time and let them just go at it. I would love to see that. So good match here for Raw, and hopefully we're not quite done with this one yet. The number one contenders match with New Day, who were very entertaining tonight, by the way. That bit with AJ where Kofi asked for the tech support, that was great. New Day truly is undervalued as the heels they have been. They've been doing great work. Going up against the Creed Brothers and LWO. Yeah, this was, I think, the best match of the night. And LWO obviously hasn't been in the limelight for quite some time. I'm not sure if they've ever even had a title shot, without it being multiple other teams. So I think this is their first shot, if not in history. It's definitely been a while. So Yeah, looking forward to that. I think, at least for me, I was very shocked in having the LWO win. I thought for sure it was going to go back to the New Day. But yeah, LWO getting their shot here, and I'm looking forward to their opportunity. That will be a pretty good contest with the Judgment Day in LWO. The promo with Becky Lynch and Lyra, of course, as you kind of alluded to already, Becky saying that Lyra couldn't challenge at all. If that was the case, I do think you're correct in that she probably meant to say if Lynch is a champion, but we can negate all of those things if Lyra gets her title back at SummerSlam. So needn't us worry about the stipulation if it doesn't come into play. But yeah, I love Becky as a heel. I think she's better as a heel than she is a face. I think her face comes over as trying way too hard, at least in my eyes. So again, we're donning those colors mentioned last week. Just plays into the heel a little better in my opinion. But then going for that handshake, and obviously Lyra getting the better of her, beating her to the punch, if you will. So yeah, I thought this was a good segment as well. Again, nothing groundbreaking, but helps us move along to the point.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a grey area there between Lyra and Becky, but I suppose it's probably all be cleared up, in the time between now and SummerSlam. But how about we go on to something that we're very aware of what took place and what went down, and that would be our next match of the night, which would see Judgment Day put their titles on the line against Bayley and Lara Valkyria. So weirdly announced match at the start of the show. Wasn't sure how I felt about this one. It just felt like it was. A really random call that made very little sense. These two literally had a match last week to determine the number one contender for the women's IC title. So yeah, they're not really on the same page. But going into the matchup, I thought I'd give it a chance, see what happened, and I was very, very impressed. I actually really enjoyed this one. It was thoroughly entertaining. We had Bayley and Lyra teaming together pretty well, actually, but just there were a lot of moments in the matchup where they just really weren't on the same page, but things were still moving along quite smoothly between the two of them somehow. It just made for an interesting dynamic, and I found it quite fun to watch. Um, Thought Roxanne Perez had an absolute standout performance in this matchup as well. Want to highlight her importance to the match here because she was in there for some time. She was in there for probably a good 75%, 80% of the matchup. And she was, yeah, really like the Iron Woman of the match. Um, Never really sort of like shied away. Judgment Day's Raquel Rodriguez would be involved every now and then. And that was fine. She did what she needed to. But yeah, Roxy was like constantly involved, and that was really good to see. She's just been killing it on the main roster, and she is so consistent anyway. But yeah, I think like now she's starting to really like stake her claim in these big matches, which is great. But yeah, there was a whole lot going on in this one. We had Dominic Mysterio at ringside, and he would be present for all the shenanigans that Judgment Day like to inflict, and he would start to get involved. There would be a point where Raquel Rodriguez would accidentally kick Dominic Mysterio. He would crash down on the outside of the ring, and the officials would call for medics to come on down to assess Dom. He's still not medically cleared at this point. AJ Styles has been sort of chasing him around the arena. I say chasing him around. Has been sort of appearing randomly in different sort of professions around the arena and has been for the last couple of weeks, to be fair. But yeah, when the medics were called down, one of which would be AJ Styles, he would look to pretend to, check out Dominic Mysterio. Dom would realize the situation, and that would all spiral out of control from there. Then we would have the matchup, continue from that point. Um, I think it was a situation with Lyra on the apron where Becky Lynch would be there. She'd randomly appear out of nowhere, and she would pull down Lyra from the apron, smash her into the steel steps, leaving Bayley in the ring at the hands of Roxy and Raquel. Raquel comes on in, hits the Tahana Bomb, and that's the titles retained for the Judgment Day. It was a really fun match. I quite enjoyed it, and yeah, it took me by surprise of how thoroughly invested I was in the end. Because at first I was I was really dubious as to why this was taking place. But yeah, doubts aside, it was great. It was fun, and yeah, I thought that everyone worked really well together. Raquel's been improving really tremendously recently as well. So I think yeah, all four of these women really put on a great show. The next match of the night, Karrion Kross goes one-on-one with Sami Zayn in this seemingly everlasting story between the two men. Um, Honestly, not a fan of how the match played out. To be honest with you, I just never really seemed to be gripped by it. We had Sami Zayn ruled out indefinitely a couple of weeks ago, and now he's back in action again. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, he's still nursing the effects of a steel pipe from Carry Cross a couple of weeks ago on his midsection, and he's still got like a massive bandage on. But he's here, he's ready to go, he's fighting, and yeah, he would basically just be wincing over the pain of his midsection for the entire matchup. Cross, knowing where to target, would continue to do so throughout the entirety of the contest. And yeah, it led to a point where Scarlett was getting involved at the ringside. Sammy was looking for a haluva kick, but Scarlett would distract the referee after passing across the steel pipe. Whilst the referee was distracted, Sammy went for the haluva kick, and Cross would just whack him in the midsection with the steel pipe, enough for the 1-2-3 to get the victory over Zayn. Yeah, I don't know, like, he's a good win for Karrion Cross. I think he needed that like massively, and I'm not going to discredit the importance of that win for him. Probably the right decision, to be fair, as well. But just the match itself in general, I just really wasn't invested in. I just couldn't really get into it. And I'm a big Sami Zayn fan, so for me to say that, I guess it's quite the struggle personally. But yeah, I don't know, just didn't vibe with it, didn't connect with it. Whatever they're trying to do here, this ongoing thing forever. I don't know, seemingly anyway. It seems to be sort of like slowing down too much, and we're not even moving anywhere at this point. It's just the same thing every week. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really feeling it. I think we could do with a desperate change for both of these men. Really, I think it's played its course now. To be honest with you, but something that was a lot better was the following contest. That would see Stephanie Vicaire going one-on-one with Io Sky. Conversation backstage between these two women highlighting their previous meeting and that they never really had an outcome in that one. It just sort of ended because of interference. So this would be an opportunity for them to put that aside and to have a proper one-on-one match, this time with a good finish. However, we would see basically part 2 of their previous match where we would have a disqualification finish, this time on the hand of Chelsea Green and the Secret Hervis, because they would come on down to the ring and they would attack Stephanie Vicaire, who's obviously had a little bit of a thing going recently with the Secret Hervis. That would cause a disqualification. We'd then see Naomi come on down and she would join in the brawl. Before then, eventually Rhea Ripley coming on down to provide the equalizer. She would help Steph and Io clear the ring before all three of them stand tall at the end of the segment. Yeah, it was a fun match. It was really, really good contest between both women. Two of the top girls in WWE, to be fair, I think we can say. And yeah, they showed why. They were very, very technically sound, and it was a good contest. But yeah, just a shame about the finish. But to be fair, this one made sense. But I think either woman really should have lost this contest. So it's difficult putting them in a one-on-one match against each other, knowing that. So logically speaking, how the DQ finish, it makes a lot of sense. I know I'm not the biggest fan of them recently, but this one is a logical choice, so got nothing wrong with this. But yeah, just setting the scene a little bit for potentially a match at SummerSlam, I want to say maybe. I feel like Stephanie and Chelsea, if that's a possibility, maybe could happen, or something along those lines. But yeah, it seems to me that's what we're going towards that with them. And then our final segment would see Paul Heyman, Bron Breakker, and Bronson Reed heading down to the ring. Heyman would say that he has a lot to get off of his chest before Roman Reigns comes out. However, as he's literally saying that, the music of Roman Reigns hits, and he comes down to the ring. Heyman would say that Seth will be out of action for a long, long time, and that the group actually has a void of leadership right now. Funnily enough, he offers Roman Reigns the chance to be that void in leadership. Would you believe it? Quite the interesting comment there from Paul Heyman, but he wasn't done because he would go on to say that, he still loves his tribal chief before passing Roman Reigns the mic. Roman would say that, maybe 5 years ago, these would have been wise words from a wise man, but now he is no longer a wise man. He's actually the Oracle, as obviously he's being referred to with Seth Rollins. But actually, he's now a dumbass instead as well. Roman would direct this conversation towards Bron Breakker moments later, basically warning him that Heyman would do exactly to Bron what Heyman did to himself. Roman then discredits Heyman's ability to help Roman keep his WWE Championship during that long reign that he had a couple of years ago, referencing the Usos, Solo, and Sami for helping him with his reign. Roman would say how he made Heyman more of a family member than just a family friend, for Heyman just to throw it all away in order to side with Seth Rollins. Roman claims that Heyman ruined the bloodline, not himself actually doing that, before then Breakker gets handed the mic. He goes on to say that Roman is yesterday's news, before claiming that he's worthless, while that he himself is the future, the new big dog, and that Heyman won't turn on him because he's got so much value to offer going forward. He demands Roman leaves the ring before Roman says that he doesn't listen to a word of what Braun had to say. Roman attacks Breakker, attempting to bring the fight to him and Reed before getting outnumbered by both men. Sooner or later, Jey Uso comes down to aid Roman Reigns, allowing enough time for Reigns to get back up and hit a spear at the same time as Jey, with Roman and Jey standing tall at the end of the segment and the end of the show. So, yeah, quite the interesting attempt from Paul Heyman there to sort of like offer an olive branch. Kind of crazy, really. Roman was never going to have any of that. But what did you make of the second half of Raw, Nick? We've obviously got the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Karrion Kross versus Sami Zayn. Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky. And then obviously the shenanigans with Roman, Heyman, Braun, Bronson, and Jey Uso.
Yeah, with the tag match and the Judgment Day with Dirty Dom. By the way, shout out to Dirty Dom and AJ Styles. AJ Styles in particular, those donning all those uniforms tonight, wearing different hats. He's underrated when it comes to comedy, AJ Styles, and those were massively entertaining. As for Lyra and Bayley, yeah, I still don't feel like we 100% got an answer as to why they tagged together. It just happened so that their attires looked very similar, and Bayley playing kind of that arrogant heel role, like clearly just doesn't care what Lyra says. Just thought that they would challenge for the tag titles because they never got to it Mania. But regardless, as you kind of mentioned, this was a great match. One of the best of the night, and as Roxy, of course, I can't argue that Roxy looks good as always, and I think Raquel continuing to improve as well, kind of playing her role a little better. I think the longer they hold those titles, the better they'll be off. They have some great chemistry. And speaking of chemistry, Lyra and Bayley also have quite a bit of chemistry as well, worth noting. So if this IC title doesn't work out for Lyra, potentially maybe get that tag team back together if they can settle their differences. But yeah, entertaining bout nonetheless. The Karrion Kross Sami Zayn match was... Yeah, I struggle with this one as well, simply because it feels like we're moving at a snail's pace, which sometimes does work, but sometimes doesn't. In this case, doesn't. With the results, varying slightly, who stands tall, but come next week or the week after, nothing has changed in the dynamic. So you could argue maybe a case of both of these guys just being extremely stubborn in their ways, but also Karrion Kross getting the win here, as you mentioned, was much deserved, much needed. But also, Sami Zayn went from being out indefinitely to competing in a match where he probably shouldn't have. So even Karrion Kross getting the win here, I think you could argue maybe not as momentum gaining as it should be, simply because of the state of Sami Zayn and that midsection. So because it took so much for Kross to beat Zayn, you could argue it made him look weak, if anything. But he got the win here, so I guess we'll wait and see. Maybe WWE has a bigger picture or a bigger plan in play, and we just aren't seeing it yet. So we'll just stay hopeful and see what they got going on from here. Then the Io and Stephanie Vaquer match. Yeah, that we're gonna get that match full pledge one day, and I'm guessing it will be one of the best. Those two women just are at the absolute top of their game. WWE knows it, playing on those heartstrings with this match and that promo earlier in the day to set it up. Of course, we didn't get that finish with Chelsea Green, which is probably for the best. It was absolutely cooking before that, but then obviously Naomi, Chelsea Green, and Rhea Ripley all getting involved here with the faces standing tall. It's just a matter of time before we get that, and even maybe Io, Rhea Ripley, and Stephanie Vaquer. I think that would be quite the match as well. But that is just the state of WWE Women's Division, right? So many dream matchups we have yet to see. But regardless, I feel like this is a pretty good segment for what it was. Obviously, letting Chelsea Green and Secret Harvest know that Stephanie Vaquer, they aren't quite done with her yet. Moving on to the main event segment. Yeah, Paul Heyman and shame do not go in the same sentence, at least in a positive note, because Paul Heyman has absolutely no shame. Was already ready to jump ship and let Roman steer again, if you will. That was great. Paul Heyman's massively entertaining, and he does it every week. Interesting in this bit to me was the Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker dynamic, where Roman Reigns is very much, still the big dog, but Braun Breaker certainly feels like he should be up in that conversation as well. They argue back and forth about who is the actual big dog now, and this Roman replying with to Braun Breaker's spiel that he didn't hear any of that. And then ending with double spears as Jey Uso comes to save Roman Reigns from being double teamed by Braun and Bronson. I thought this was a pretty good segment. I think probably headed for maybe a tag team match here at SummerSlam. And I would argue maybe this is a bit beneath Roman, but regardless, it should be a fun bout nonetheless for SummerSlam. But yeah, lots and lots of stories moving forward here. So I think this is a pretty good Raw. I will give this one an 8 out of 10. I felt like every single thing had a point. Maybe argue the Karrion Zayn one not so much, but everything else very much moved forward. The stories that we are expecting to see come to a head at SummerSlam.
Yeah, lots of progression from this episode of Raw going into SummerSlam, like you said there. I think it was a pretty fun episode, to be fair, for the most part. Then we had a lot of good things happening. Yeah, obviously, just the main, criticism that I have, and you highlighted over as well, Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn. But everything else seemed to move in the right direction, which is pretty good. Obviously moving forward, not sideways or backwards. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. When it comes to this episode of Monday Night Raw, I think that it's definitely an improvement over the last few that we've had recently anyway. SmackDown's suffering at the moment, with obviously the change of dynamic over there. But yeah, this was a good episode of Raw. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, everything seemed to move in the right direction except for that one little thing. So, can't really be too critical about that show. I gave it in the end a 8 out of 10. I think that it was just one of those shows that seemed to sort of like yeah, have everything going right. So that was quite nice to see actually, and loads of character development. Some good quality matches on the show as well. So yeah, just the general, just improvement with how things are going, and that's obviously really good to see. I think I might have said an 8. I think I was meant to give it an 8.5 out of 10. So just to confirm and check that over there. Yeah, so pretty close then between yourself and myself. So yeah, not a bad episode of Raw all around. So there you are, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning on in to our recap of Monday Night Raw for this past week. This has been The Push with Nick and KP. If you liked what you saw from the video, then please consider hitting a like and subscribe to our channel to keep up with future releases coming forward. We've got NXT recap coming out very, very soon actually that'll be probably later today, that'll be coming out. So yeah, looking forward to getting that one out as well. But for now, everyone, take it easy, take care, and we'll see you all in the next one. This has been The Push with Nick and KP, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.